Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. You mad, bro? Steelers fans want more heat on ownership and more optimism about QBs. What did I learn from you mad, bro, this week? Well, let's see. I learned that I am too hard on the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm not hard enough on the owner. I learned that Steelers fans are somewhere between irrational optimism and hopeless depression. And I learned that we are now revisiting the Jameis Winston chapter of the Steelers QB conversation. In other words, it's time for spring break. But first, here's a mad and March you mad, bro? Robert thinks I'm not hard enough on Steelers owner Art Rooney too. When do you criticize Rooney? He extended, Mike Tomlin. I felt he should have been replaced 2 years ago. With the baseball team, the failure starts and ends with nutting. When do I criticize Rooney? I'm sorry, sir, but are you new around here? If you don't think I've been critical of Rooney, what exactly do you think I've been writing? If you want me to write a sell the team, art, column, like every columnist and sports talk radio host has been shouting about nutting for almost 20 years, I'm not going to bother doing that, because it's not going to happen. It hasn't happened with nutting for almost 2 decades of ownership. It's not going to happen with Rooney too after his family has owned the team for almost a century. Dominic has an idea to solve the Steelers' quarterback situation. Yes. He is entertaining. Particularly if you are an opposing defensive back. For them interceptions are, indeed, lots of fun. On Friday, I posted a web poll after the Steelers signed Mason Rudolph. Apparently, this guy was really bothered by that. You are right. I should be quiet and whisper all the positive things you need to hear about their QB situation into your ear until you fall asleep with images of Super Bowl 13 dancing through your head. I'll be your Steeler fan ASMR. By the way, you posted this in response to a poll merely asking for your own opinion, not mine. So I'm not sure how that makes me negative. Paul is upset with people who doubt Mason Rudolph. With support by Tomlin, OC Arthur Smith, and the QB coach, Tom Arth, he will do well. Who knows, perhaps he can get the Steelers to the SB. Yes. And perhaps Connor Dewar can get the Penguins to the Stanley Cup. This person agrees with Cameron Hayward's frustration about the Steelers' QB situation, in theory. But it's the practicality of the frustration he seems to question. When I wrote about black and gold existential nihilism, that's what I'm talking about. But who are we kidding? We're just one Jackson Dart draft choice, or Russell Wilson moonball to DK Metcalf, or one Aaron Rodgers TD to George Pickens from talking ourselves into believing again. Finally, a guy named DMC advances my opinion that Hayward may have been a bit disingenuous when he says that he shouldn't have to recruit Aaron Rodgers, especially after he did recruit Wilson and Darius Slay recently. No. I just think that Hayward would prefer it if Rodgers retired. And speaking of those poems Cam wrote for Russ last year, the Tribliv investigative team has actually obtained one of them from Hayward's notebook. Roses are red. And the beach has sand. Please join the Steelers, 'cause Kenny has tiny hands. Aaron Rodgers' timeline remains a mystery as Pittsburgh Steelers wait for an answer. The Pittsburgh Steelers continue to wait for an answer from Aaron Rodgers. This week, Rodgers and the Steelers have opened a line of communication that is continuing, meaning that a resolution or clarity should at least be there in the Steelers organization. However, even with the Minnesota Vikings pulling out of the sweepstakes, it does seem Rodgers is in a rush. Adam Schefter of ESPN says there is no firm timeline on when Rodgers could make a decision, and while the Steelers and New York Giants are the potential landing spots, Rodgers could decide to retire. Nothing related to Minnesota has altered Aaron Rodgers' timeline. One source monitoring Rodgers' potential decision about the 2025 season said this morning that the free agent QB still is in no rush at all, Schefter wrote. Rodgers has 2 clear landing spots, but if he does not like any of those spots, the 41-year-old does not have to keep playing. that cannot be ruled out, but the Steelers seem content in waiting Rodgers out at this point. The Giants' offer is said to be more lucrative, but that does not mean he will jump at their offer. For the Steelers, they are recruiting Rodgers, but have backup plans in the case he does not sign with them, including the idea that Mason Rudolph could start. Thursday's First Call has the latest spin on the Aaron Rodgers saga from a Pittsburgh perspective. There's news about some potential college quarterbacks in the draft, as well. The Steelers are lobbying for some changes to free agency. And we have career updates regarding a pair of former Steelers. One is continuing his playing career. The other is rebooting his coaching career. No more Viking quest. The Minnesota Vikings are apparently out of the Aaron Rodgers bidding process, if they were ever in it in the first place. As a result, it appears that Rodgers' choices are narrowed to 4 options: Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, retirement, wait until after the draft, or training camps, to see who may still need a QB later. In terms of the Steelers' interest, the NFL Network's Tom Pelissero said lines of communication are still open between the two sides. For the Steelers, we know that they have prioritized Aaron Rodgers over potentially bringing back Russell Wilson, Pelissero said. I am told there is ongoing dialogue between the Steelers, Rodgers' agent, as well Aaron Rodgers himself, and various members of the organization. Pelissero added that the Steelers are willing to wait for Rodgers' decision. However, if Rodgers does decide to wait through the draft, the Steelers shouldn't hesitate when it comes to drafting a quarterback over the first 2 days. If they like Jackson Dart, Tyler Shaw, or Jalen Milroe, they should draft them. But that should happen only if the front office really likes them, not because the team is desperate because of Rodgers' inactivity. On that topic, meanwhile, Mike Tomlin and others from the franchise had dinner with Milroe at Alabama's Pro Day earlier this week. Milroe racked up 27 starts over 4 years with the Crimson Tide, totaling 45 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. He was 6th in the Heisman Trophy balloting in 2023 before having more of an up-and-down campaign as a senior. ESPN previously reported that Shaw was a pre-draft meeting visitor of the Steelers. He also spoke with the organization at the Combine in Indianapolis. Over 7 years in college, 3 at Oregon, 3 at Texas Tech and 1 with Louisville, Shaw threw for 7,820 yards and 59 touchdowns against 23 interceptions. He was 21-11 and averaged 8.2 yards per attempt. But he never started more than 5 games in a year until this season, when he started 12 for the Cardinals. Steelers are fine waiting on decision from Aaron Rodgers, says NFL Insider. Even with their instability at quarterback, the Pittsburgh Steelers are fine with waiting on veteran free agent Aaron Rodgers to make a decision regarding next season, Fox Sports' Jordan Schultz reported Wednesday. Sources have indicated that the Pittsburgh Steelers are fine waiting for Rodgers to make a decision on whether he's ultimately playing in 2025, and if so, where, and money has not been an issue, Schultz wrote in an evening column. Meanwhile, the New York Giants remain interested, though I could see them adding a backup type very soon, similar to Pittsburgh signing Mason Rudolph. As of Wednesday, the teams openly interested in Rodgers dwindled to just the Steelers and the Giants. There was a brief flirtation with the Minnesota Vikings, but such talk has been, mostly, shut down. Now, Rodgers is left to choose between Pittsburgh, New York, or retirement, and he is really taking his time to do so. But as Rodgers deliberates, 2024 Steelers quarterback and current free agent Russell Wilson is waiting patiently in the wings, with reports indicating he'd like to play for the black and gold again come the fall. Pittsburgh is in desperate need of some stability under center, and while they likely won't get it this season, a veteran QB could be a great bridge to younger talent. So now that Justin Fields has left for the New York Jets, the team's options are: 1. Start former backup and new pickup Mason Rudolph, 2. Re-sign Wilson, or 3. Sign Rodgers. But if Wilson walks before Rodgers decides, and then Rodgers chooses the Giants or retirement, well, that could be a bit of a problem. So although the Steelers are clearly hoping the waiting game pays off, it's a big risk at this stage. Let's hope it all falls into place. And you, fan? What do you think about Aaron Rodgers' situation? Write to us in the comments.